Hello and welcome to Module 7. First of all, I just want to say thank you very much for those wonderful group projects that were posted last week. I thoroughly enjoyed reading your projects and following along your discussion. Thank you very much for all of the time and effort you put into your work. Here we are, Module 7, and we are towards the end of our class. The last two chapters that you will be reading will wrap up the end of our reading and our casework. So to go back to where we first began, as you recall, when we first started this class, we talked about the big four, and I'd like to revisit that during this module because when we first started talking about looking at theories and we looked at the big four, we said that probably the most significant four factors that are important in looking at why clients change, why there is change in a client's behavior or mood when a client goes to therapy. And probably one of the most significant factor in why a client change really has to do with extra therapeutic changes. As you recall, about 40% of why a client change has nothing to do with what we do. Has a lot to do with what happens in a client's life, what happens in a client's life outside of the session. And so much of it is outside of our hands. Another 30% has to do with the therapeutic relationship, how much we relate to the client, the relationship we form with the client, and all of these factors that have to do with the skills that we develop as a therapist and that we tend to bond with and associate with our clients. Then the other 15% has to do with how much the client expects to change, how much the client hopes that the therapy will work. So all of those, about 85% of that has to do with factors outside of what we have been studying during this class. So about 15% of what causes the client to change actually has to do with techniques. And what we've been studying for the last 7 weeks in this class is counseling techniques and theories. And as you will recall, during our weekend on campus, we went through various techniques and various theories. And one of the things that we talked about was using the idea of thinking of theories and thinking of these techniques as a roadmap, that perhaps when we think about approaching a client, that we have a map, we have a starting point, and we have an idea of where we would like to end. And we use this roadmap as a way to sort of guide our thinking. But as we look at all these theories and techniques that we have learned over the past 7 weeks, that we also talked about ways in which we will use our own individual thinking and what our preferences will be, things that we will like about this theory, things we will like about that theory, and we will eventually come to develop our own style. And it's been interesting over the past 7 weeks to see you develop your own preferences and over your discussion questions to see your preferences and your reactions to different techniques that have been used. And as you recall, we first started our whole discussion looking at psychoanalytic theories and techniques, and many of you have used a lot of words like countertransference and transference, and looking at past history and experiences as something that you have related to when we've talked about different cases. We've also looked at behaviorist theories and cognitive behavioral techniques. I know a lot of you have related to the use of cognitive behavioral therapies as something that you have really liked and related to, especially in your work that you will be using in your forensic settings. We've also looked at solution-focused therapies. I know we've looked at different type of techniques in the existential, humanistic, client-centered. We used at Adler, Jungian, dream interpretation, narrative. Trying to think of other theories that we've looked at that you might have related to in your family systems. I look forward to reading your paper this week, actually, on your interpretation of how you believe family systems has had its effect on our case presentation of Carla. This last chapter that you will be reading will allow you to take a little bit of all of these theories, sort of use a multi-model approach to um, looking at techniques that you will be using with your clients. So I hope that you will be able to, by the end of this week, have a roadmap that you feel comfortable, at least for now, being able to claim as yours, whether you use a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy, a little bit of solution focused theory, and a little bit of maybe feminist approach, and a little bit of systems approach, whatever it is that you have come to like, and put it together as something that you will use in your work moving forward. As you continue with your work throughout the next several years, I hope that you continue to add to your roadmap. I look forward to reading your paper, and I look forward to your final exam, as I'm sure you do. And if there's anything else I can do to help you, please do not hesitate to call. Good luck. Thank you.